Welcome, everybody, and you are tuned into TNC Talks Non-Profit with Mercedes and Scott.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Scott. We want to thank our sponsor before we get started and dive into the interview. Methodist Healthcare Ministries of South Texas has been our sponsor for 2025, and we want to thank them for the support. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mercedes to introduce our guests.
Yes, today we have Jason Massiatte with Hope at Heart. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Really excited to have you. Well, before we dive into your story and how you arrived in the nonprofit sector, and you did spoil a little bit before the story, before the show, so I'll keep my mouth shut. But tell us a little bit about Hope at Heart and the mission and what you guys do.
Sure.
Here.
So Hope at Heart Foundation is a mission of giving to families that are battling pediatric cancer.
Okay.
So we serve from infant to the age of 26. And a lot of organizations either stop at 18 or 21, but a lot of our kids that are in high school actually go even further for treatment. So it's non-medical drivers of health. So it's our Blessings Way program, which is utility pay, mortgage, rent, those necessities, so they can focus on the survival of that child. And also Heaven's Way, which is end-of-life services for funeral costs, celebration of life. We do a star naming so they can have a memorial, so they can always remember their child in the heavens. And so it comes with an app up so they can look up that child at any moment.
Oh,
so it's something different.
Don't make me cry at the beginning of the interview.
Well, it's a heavy thing that we do. You know, we were founded in 2017, and we just rebranded to Hope at Heart Foundation from a Heal's Heart. Still, heart being the center of everything we do, and hope is in everything that we do also for the families that we serve. So the need is growing, and there's not a lot of organizations like myself that exist out there.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine that like utility help and those sorts of things are the harder types of funding for individuals who need it to get.
They are. And, you'd be surprised. As a volunteer, I was thinking, well, I know that there's a problem. In the operational side of when you get to know the families, it just gets your heart.
Yeah.
Because you see the triumphs and then you see the losses. And so since I've been in office 1 year, 10 months, we've lost 20 children.
Oh my God.
And this is here in the city of San Antonio.
Yeah.
And so for 2025, we're projected to have 300 children in the city of San Antonio diagnosed with pediatric cancer.
Wow. How do people find y'all?
So yeah, they could look us up online. We're public. We are with United Way's 211. We're signed up with that. Okay. Although we haven't been funded by United Way yet.
Shameless plug.
No, so you got to have that. We got our funds funding from United Way, Comal County. So one of the only San Antonio organizations because we serve that area.
Okay. How far do you reach outside of Bear?
It's pretty far.
Yeah.
So primarily is Bexar County, but we extend out to South Texas, Houston, because some of our families are from MD Anderson, and Austin, and further out, we've had families in Dallas and stuff. But I become a hub. Our organization's become a hub because we partner with Methodist Children's, Chris's Children's, University Hospital, and Vitas Healthcare, which is a hospice.
Okay.
And so families come in from all over the place to kind of get the serve here.
So they're getting treatment here.
That's right.
And then using y'all services.
That's correct. That's correct. And part of that is also providing like fuel cards for families going to MD Anderson.
Okay.
And so we don't just serve that one time. A lot of it is collaborations with other organizations that we can kind of make sure that the families feel like they have a community.
They're taken care of.
Yeah. It's really important for them.
Wow. How many staff do y'all have?
Well, we have 3 total, but we have about 4 volunteers.
Okay.
One volunteer is like a full-time volunteer. So we don't have a big staff because funding is really tight right now.
Right.
And so a lot of the programming, outreach, events, it's all done by me. Grant writing, I also grant write. I learned my
all
first
the
year.
Hats.
Yeah, I wish we could have the ability to have funding like that. We just don't have that. The hope is that we will eventually.
Right.
But I don't feel like I'm leaving anytime soon. I love this mission.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Well, you've only been there just over a year. So
I know.
You've got time.
A founding board member, so I was there when I was asked to be on the board. And again, volunteering is one thing, but actually working with the families day to day. You never know when your mission or when the path is going to cross your way of like what you're destined to do, right? Yeah, I like to think that we all have a plan in our lives, that there's something that we are here for, like a purpose. And a few months ago, I have twin girls that are 2.5 years old. And my cousin Angel, his girls are 2.5 years old. And one of his daughters, Ariana, has leukemia.
Gosh.
And so she's at Christus and they're taking really good care of them right now. And again, you just never know when you're going to encounter that. And the need is absolutely growing.
Yeah.
And for some reason in South Texas alone, it's gotten worse. And so there's statistics from the state of Texas that shows that pediatric leukemia and pediatric cancer on children is on the rise.
Well, that's really sad. Well, how did you end up serving in a cancer nonprofit? How to go take us all the way back? What's your story? Because you're right. I think we all have different paths and things line up in certain ways and you don't know how it's going to end up. But how did you get to this point so far?
So, well, I'll start out. I'm originally from San Antonio, born and raised.
Okay.
I lived for a little part in Mirasoles Courts, which are the projects in the west side of town. And then I moved to the east side of town with Wheatley Courts that don't exist there anymore.
Right.
And they just built that Wheatley Hospital, University Hospital. And then I ended up in the south side. So I know what it's like to struggle. You know, as a child, seeing my parents, both of them had passed already. And so I knew that when I got to a point where I can give, I started giving back. And so whether I had or not, and if I saw somebody in need, that's just kind of how I was raised. And so I'm giving. So in 2013, I joined the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And that was my first time understanding that, like, hey, there's more that I could do. You know, it's one thing if you're handing something to a homeless person or providing somebody money to somebody in need. Like, understanding the nonprofits that are in this sector was important to me.
Okay.
Because it's our community.
Right.
You know, so I joined a leadership program, which I'll always promote, Alex Bresenio Leadership Development Program in 2018. I became the valedictorian. And our project was giving to families in need. And that was the first time at 38 years old that I realized that my voice truly mattered. Right? All of us have a voice. And a lot of times we don't realize how important it is to speak and advocate for those in need.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I was like, okay, I need to change my path. And so
what were you doing work-wise?
Yeah. Sorry, I was stuck.
Further back.
It's all about giving.
I was with North American Van Lines. I ended up at the regional vice president for North American Van Lines. So I ran the state of Texas.
Okay.
So from Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and Killeen, Texas, right by Fort Cavazos or Fort Hood, as previously known. So that I was doing that. I was in transportation and logistics.
Okay.
And so
that was your whole career?
That was my whole career. Well, and I actually, United Way was my first official touch on nonprofit because I was part of the United Way campaign.
Okay.
So on average, we would raise between our employees, hourly employees, about $250,000 a year. And so I think my last year there, I think we were about 98,000.
Okay.
And that was local?
It was local.
United Way? Okay.
Yeah, local.
Did you run the campaign
I was running it with the
statewide?
owner of the company.
Okay.
So with us, I would go travel to all of our offices, advocate for that.
Tell them
and
what
we
it
got to
was.
choose which giving platform, like which one, which organ, or which, what is the word? I'm so sorry.
No, like which grantee?
Which path we want each one of those to give, like domestic violence, feeding children,
what sector,
things of that. That's one thing I did love about United Way. See, I supported you the whole time. Now, and Chris Martin was great. When I came into the nonprofit sector, I had a meeting with him, and I just wanted to kind of learn a little more. And then I learned how far out the applying for the grants are, and I'm like, oh, that's a wake up call for me, because in the private sector it's a little different. Like you can easily, work on RFPs and stuff like that.
Sure.
But that's kind of what I used to do before. I loved it. I love logistics. It's kind of what I do now, even when you're doing event planning or anything, or navigating how to help these families. It's part of
kind of
what I used to do in a sense. So it's different. I left the private world getting paid really well. So it was Ward North American. But
how's it going now?
I took a big step down for a good reason, for a good cause, for a wonderful mission.
That's
and initially I was told, like, hey, it's probably not a good idea to go to the nonprofit sector. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I would love to do is give.
So you literally just decided one day I'm going to leave and quit?
From working at the Hispanic Chamber and leading that effort, that kind of got you.
Well, I was a board member, so I was a board.
Oh, okay.
I was a member of the Hispanic Chamber. I'm still a board member
Yeah.
for the Hispanic Chamber. And then I actually am a board member for American Red Cross. I was the vice chair during Kerrville. So a lot of that was happening. So before I stepped down, I wanted to make sure that those families were cared for.
Mhm.
And then I stepped down from my role and left, somebody else in leadership to step into that role. Still on the board,
Okay.
but I wanted to make sure I didn't leave before the things were taken care of.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's giving back is important to me. I tell
Mhm.
my kids that all the time. I am a father of 8. I'm sure that will get a lot of reactions.
Oh,
So
wow.
my
And yet
oldest
you
is
still
29.
left
Yeah.
the
You
corporate
don't have any
world.
wrinkles or
Yes.
gray hair. How is that possible?
It's right here. It's in the go-to. So the founder had offered me a role.
Mhm.
And initially, I was going to be a succession plan for the organization I was at before. I started working. It's called OMA,
Mhm.
Office Movement Association. So we're working with international organizations, and it was fun traveling and stuff. But I have a family at
Yeah.
home,
Right.
so I'm like, how can I have an impact at home? So when the job was offered to me, I was in tears. I'm like, number one, this is something I've always wanted to do.
Oh.
Is give back. Like, how could I not? How could I say no to that?
Yeah.
And one thing I'll give Gloria credit to, she said this was God's path for you.
Oh.
And so I'm like, I can't say no to God.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing, right? So I jumped in the role,
So what was your role when you first landed at what
President.
was
So before I was on the
Yeah.
board, and 2023, I was the board chair.
okay.
And then I got offered in 2024.
Okay.
And so it took a few months for me to decide, 2 months. And
Mhm.
I sent a message and a letter to my boss at the time.
Mhm.
And he flew down from Arizona. He's like, what do you mean you're going?
He's
And I
like,
was
don't you know you're not going to make
wow.
any money?
No, and to his credit, he had this binder full of possibilities for me,
Mhm.
just of, hey, here's shares of the company. I will give you more money to stay. But it's not about the money.
Right.
Yeah.
First. Now, although in a nonprofit, we need money, right?
That's all we talk about.
But when it comes to like the reality of like when you want to do something and you're passionate about it, it's about the meaning, right? What's your purpose?
Right.
And so I turned him down, and I said, I really want to do this. This is something. And of course, I checked with my wife. You always got to check with your wife, guys.
Yes.
Like your spouse, your partner.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. That's right. Well, we had just had our twin girls at the time. So she's like, what, do it. This is something you would always wanted to do. And that was the best thing for me.
wow.
And so I jumped in, not knowing how difficult it was, but expecting a challenge. And so that's why I got.
So even serving all the boards that you've served on, you kind of went in blindly, not knowing how difficult it would be to run the organization.
Yeah,
I'm just
it's
curious.
different. Even as a board member, you don't always hear the good, bad, and the ugly, right? Sometimes you hear of successes. Even when you'll be presented with like an issue or a need, but you have an entire team to work on getting it done.
Right.
So having a strong board is really important, and we have a lot of good board members.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be great. We always want them to be great, but we also have to respect that they're volunteer positions.
Right.
So it's getting the right people in place to motivate each other to get the things done. And so I've been blessed to be on really good boards. And so it kind of gave me blinders in a sense. And I'm not saying I didn't anticipate. There's always going to be challenges, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. But it was a wake-up call for me. I'm like, wow, people really don't invest in pediatric cancer.
Yeah.
There's no funding. We don't hit what's called a pillar, right? When you look at company give back, what's their mission, what's their pillar? We don't hit any of them. The only foundation that has a specific pillar for pediatric cancer, in my understanding, that I know of is Kronkowski.
Okay.
So Kronkowski's the only one. We haven't received funding from them yet because they just renewed their cycle and what they're going to be doing. They're now going to be advocating for giving for operations, which is rare. Normally it's just programs.
That shift is
so that's
happening.
like 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
It's not where I need it now, but eventually, the goal is to be there. And I think it's going to be fantastic, when that option happens.
So do y'all rely a lot on individual donations?
And so I've
and
had
events and
so micro events are what you would consider, some call them friends raisers.
Mm-hmm.
So my very first event as president, it was I did a play on World Children's Day, El Día del Niño, kickoff right before Fiesta.
Mm-hmm.
That's officially called my signature event. And so, that first one was about 30,000
Oh.
in a 2-hour event.
Yeah.
So I was like, is that good? I wasn't sure. But I got a lot of kudos from my friends. And thank you to my LSA 47, best class ever forever.
Lots of
They
plugs
stepped
today.
up. They stepped up.
Yeah.
They came to my event,
Yeah.
ABLDP, alumni, LSA. And to have that kind of support in a new role for my first
Right.
event was a blessing.
Yeah.
And the hope is like, when you go into those programs, even like working with a nonprofit council, it's like you build a relationship and a companionship, a friendship, where you can kind of work with each other. How can I support you and vice versa?
Yeah.
So I was blessed to have a good number of my classmates come in and support me. So it's been good. So most of our funding is through events. And I've had success when I was frustrated and learning. I learned how to write grants, actually, to Arlene Seller, like working with her team actually educated me on how to write grants. So I'm going to give her credit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not just writing them. They're
No,
working with
they're
you
working
so
with
you learn.
Right. Like what is your mission? How do you explain your mission? How can you tug on the heartstrings, but also make sure that you're showing what programs you're fulfilling for these families? How are you closing that gap within the community? So I was taught basically by learning from her team what needs to be done. And then my first grant awarded was the San Antonio Area Foundation for emergency funding for our Blessings Way program. And I wrote it over a weekend because I was frustrated. I said, I can do this. I know I can do it. And I got blessed with it. And so thanks to Gavin and the team over there, they believed in it. And they said it was the first time they ever gave funding to an organization like ours.
Wow.
So it was wonderful to hear that because they believe thank goodness I wrote it the right way. But that's the goal, is to kind of get people to buy into who we are.
Hospital foundations are not at this point.
No, not right
which
now.
Surprises.
It's surprising because our largest partner is University Hospital. We served over 1,100 patients and family members out of that hospital.
Wow.
Our second largest is Methodist Children's Hospital. Unfortunately, we have not received any funding from Methodist Health Ministries, although they're fantastic. We did get a community gift from their community bucket. So 2 years in a row, Jamie has given us a gift from that. But I'm hoping that they do buy into like giving us a grant. Message, right? But it's a wonderful organization. There's so many people with hands out, but we don't fit that pillar, so. And when you look at, well,
I have to say kudos to you for not trying to shove your mission into a bucket, because I feel like that's a lot. A lot of folks will
mission creep, so to speak. That's like the term.
Well, I'm going to write for who we are. I can't pretend that we're doing something else to just get a gift, because that's not really going to. I'm trying to fill the gap.
Right.
Non-medical drivers of help are really needed. So the families, the stress, they have this financial cliff that they fall off of.
Right.
And so normally you have two individuals in a family, in a household, that are working. And then all of a sudden, mom or dad has already exhausted their vacation, their sick leave, family leave act. There's no other option other to leave work. So you had an income that was stable, now down to one.
Right.
And they're trying to survive. Now that income is still not at the level where they can get SNAP benefits or Medicaid. And with the cost of everything going on right now, think about that.
Situation.
What happens to these families? They're literally picking and choosing on their kitchen table. Am I going to pay the light? Am I going to pay the mortgage? Can we put off our car payment? So these are the things that matter. I want to make sure that they don't lose their car. They don't get evicted from their home, that they're able to pay the utilities, because these kids have, refrigerated medication too.
Yeah, or another siblings likely.
Right. And so there's this unintentional neglect that happens to the other siblings because they're in survival mode for this one child.
Right.
Adolescent, young adult, there's survival mode. So it's an absolute need that's being missed. And I have to be a voice for those that don't have one. And if you think about it, and I'm going to ask you all this, and I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Do you know when Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month is?
No.
You know when Breast Cancer Awareness Month is?
I think it's October.
Everybody knows it's October.
Oh.
You know what pink means, right?
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Gold is our color. September's our month.
September.
And it's not to make you feel bad.
The coverage,
It doesn't get any coverage at all. Children should always be number one in everything that we do. When we talk about feeding our children, when we talk about educating our children, but what if the children are going through pediatric cancer? How can you fill in these other things it starts here. The healthiness, the wellness of that child.
Right.
And unfortunately, when we hit resilient communities on some missions for organizations, that doesn't hit a marker. It has to be specific to pediatric cancer.
Wow.
So this is where...
So it's a lot of education. You have to go around and talk to people endlessly probably about what's happening, and people just have their head in the sand. I mean, I guess...
Well, they don't know until it knocks on your door.
Right.
And that's when it's too late. And then when you're saying, I need to advocate for funding for these organizations, well, it's not going to be available.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and there's other organizations like Angie's Angels, Big Love, Gabriella Smiles, like there's Jackson Frog, right? But all of them do something a little different. But some focus on events, some focus on like, how can we give an adventure to this child, similar to like Make-A-Wish.
Right.
I focus on making sure that family is stable financially, so they can carry on.
Not as fun, maybe.
Right. It's not as fun. So we initially started our organization giving gifts. And that is good for short-term enjoyment, right? Like hope, and it's exciting. But then when they go home and they sit in front of their bills,
so the stress.
Like what are they going to do? And that's a lot of times they have like no idea what to do.
Right.
And so one of the hardest things that I've encountered is like, it's taboo still for men to talk about their mental health state. So imagine a father that's in a family and their child's going to pediatric cancer, and they're supposed to be, like, hey, I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm supposed to be the head of the household, the traditional side of things, right? And what I didn't realize was, as I stepped into my role, that I was going to have these conversations with the dads. I had this one gentleman that came in, and we had sat down. We do painting for the families when we first onboard them. It's kind of a little fun. It takes them away from everything that's going on around them. So the whole family gets to paint. And we have, when they're done with the painting, we put them up in what's called our Hall of Hearts. And so if you go to our office, you walk around into all these hearts from all the kids, and their family. And so we sit down with the dad. This one dad pulled me aside. He's like, do you mind if I talk to you? I'm like, sure. So I had a volunteer take care of the rest of the family. I sit down, close my door, and the tears just start coming in.
Wow.
And you see this guy, huge guy, masculine, great goatee, and you would never have thought that he would break down like that. And he's like, man, I don't have anybody. Like, I don't have any support. It's like my family, when my son first got diagnosed, like they were there, and all of a sudden nobody's even asking how he's doing. And then our community, who do I go to? That's terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, I got to be strong. I can't let my wife see me like this. And I'm just like, man, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
We got to remember that. And so part of me advocating and trying to get people to bring awareness is making sure that they know that they're not alone.
Right.
Because unfortunately, they're not alone. It's a huge community here in San Antonio.
Right.
Do y'all connect with other agencies? I mean, you mentioned all the other ones.
I'm trying
to give the family other support mechanisms.
Yes. So, kudos to Gabriella Smiles. We came together to pay for a little boy's funeral.
Okay.
And so I'd rather not mention his name right now, but he was all over the news and talking about like how, it was during Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. And as soon as he passed, Mom said that nobody reached out and asked him for help. So another wonderful organization, Any Baby Can, stepped up and helped with some of the funeral costs. I went out to Catholic Charities. I reached out because we can't carry it alone. We don't have the funding to carry it alone.
Right.
And so we all came together and we paid for that funeral for this child.
That's amazing.
That's the beauty of the community.
Yeah.
The nonprofit.
It is. And I recently met with Christina from Children's Bereavement Center.
Okay.
Yep.
She's a wonderful human being. I love making these connections because now I have a resource for my families. I'm not going to do something I don't specialize in.
Right.
I'm only going to
start up a program.
No.
That's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Because then you get into the duplicity of stuff. I'm not going to duplicate something that somebody does great.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to, the word's half-ass, right? I don't want to half-ass anything. I want to do what I do, and I want to be great at it.
Right.
So the families can get exactly what they need from us, and then I could put them together with another organization and stuff that can help them in another way.
Right.
Well, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
I mean, we had no idea.
Yeah. Now we
That
do.
is- I know.
September.
I know. Yes, September.
Yeah, September.
See, had we known, we could have run it in September, but that's okay.
Well, thank you to our elected Joaquin Castro. invited me to the State of the Union address. So I actually got to travel to DC and sit. Actually, I was pretty close to the Trump family.
Wow.
And cancer has nothing to do with politics. Cancer hits everybody. Doesn't matter if you're right or left, in the middle. Has no discrimination, race, gender, anything. Right. So when I was there, one of the things he did was highlight a brain cancer survivor. If you remember the State of the Union address, I stood up and I was clapping because they were advocating for change, and that matters. You know, I went and met with Chip Roy and Pete Sessions. You know, and it's so crazy that you see all this chaos like on TV, but behind the scenes, they actually communicate really well. I think it's just a show. It's partly because they have their constituents that they got to play to. But behind the scenes, they're talking. Chip Roy is a brain cancer survivor. Joaquin Castro is surviving colon cancer. So he goes and gets treatment at Mays Cancer Center. You know, Rebecca Clay Flores is dealing with that. And that's one of the reasons that she's a supporter, our commissioner. You know, and so it's affecting so many people in our community, but we're still not getting funding. So the hope was when I went to go advocate in front of the federal side that we could change something. Unfortunately, 6 cancer bills were cut, and it starts from the top to trickle down to research and everything else.
Well, it also takes time.
It does. It does.
And you're staying on top of it. So
I'm trying
persistence.
But the research part of it has been the same 4% since the 80s.
Wow.
So for pediatric cancer.
And we all know that cancer hasn't stayed the same.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And our children are treated with adult medication. So there's not even pediatric medication available for them because there's not enough research. So I spoke to one of the pharmaceutical companies and went all the way to the top. And I said, why isn't you can't even help in funding? What's the reasoning? And her response was, well, I'm going to just be honest with you. There's not enough children dying. One child dying is too much. On average in the U.S., about 1,800 children die per year. Texas, 200. I've lost 20 since I've been in my office, right? That's a big need. For Texas, it's huge. You know, on average, 17 children per day get diagnosed with cancer. That's in the U.S. You know, but here we have 300 in 2025, and that's not stopping. So if you want stats, those are the stats, right? This is the information that's going on, but how do we change it? It's changing is creating awareness. You know, that's one of the reasons that I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm going to stay in my mission as long as I can. But to talk about what's going on, we have about 30 days before we run out of funding because we've been denied so many grants. But I'm optimistic that we'll have some funders. The Gomez law firm, Carmen Gomez, Joe Gomez have been huge contributors to us. They give so much to like the Girl Scouts, Madonna Center, St. Mary's Law. They just donated $1 million to them, you know. So I'm trying to diversify. I can't just lean on one fund. That's not fair to our funders, right?
Every nonprofit, I think that's a frustrating thing that we hear a lot is funders or people in the community think, oh, they just need to diversify their funding. It's like that's all they are trying to do every day.
That's literally what we're trying to do every day. And then you add today's political climate or economic environment to what's going on today.
Just kind of a perfect storm.
It's right now. And I already had an uphill battle when I stepped in my role because pediatric cancer isn't what people focus on. It's almost like you don't care about children, but do we? You know, I mean, to remember that, you know, what times are important for these families, you know? So that's kind of like I'm trying to educate more than anything, like you were saying earlier. So people could know and be aware. So maybe we can get some funding, you know?
Well, I'm sure with your persistence and your passion that somehow it will all come together. So.
Well, you've done a great job. And thanks for sharing it all. Because I think every little bit helps getting your message out.
It does.
And we're happy to have you.
And there's no contribution too small.
No.
And I'll share this with you. I did like an online campaign, which was $1, 1 like, 1 comment, 1 share. And I had somebody comment, she said, laugh out loud. That's ridiculous on our webpage. But we were able to pay for a mortgage at the end of that campaign. So that family got to save their house.
Wow.
And their home. for that child.
And those are the stories you need to be telling.
And it's what's going on in our community. Yeah. And I have Tech Size Studios that's doing some family stories. They haven't came out yet, but they in-kinded a huge portion of the filming for these stories. So I can't wait for y'all to kind of see it.
Oh, great.
It's going to be awesome.
Well, not to plug the Big Give, but I think that's the essence.
Go ahead.
You
go ahead, because I'm looking up at it.
Well, I think that's the essence of Big Give, and that's why it's so important to us. And we've faced struggles to get funding for incentive dollars and things for the nonprofits. And it's tough, because when you believe in something so much, when you believe that $5 and $10 adds all up to over $6 million, and that's what the day is all about.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's a huge impact, and it's everyone. I mean, not everybody, but most people can spare $5, $10, and
it all adds up.
And it does add up, and it matters.
And I think what folks don't understand is, the $1, the $5, nonprofits turn that into tenfold.
Right. It's into actual services provided.
Yeah.
Right? Our direct services for the families we serve. And credit to the Big Give. It was my first year officially doing it. We still made about $700 something. That's still good. I think it's good because it's something we wouldn't have had. So next year, now that we're getting more awareness out, the goal is to be like something huge, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And you'll build off
over
of it.
time.
It is. It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. We made our money back for the early enrollment side.
Yes.
So
That's right.
as long as
you can do that.
Okay,
we always say, as long as you can cover that.
I try to keep it positive. We got to keep it in what we do, and helping our community and filling those gaps is absolutely important to stay positive through it all.
And we've always said if the Big Give wasn't here, it would be a hole in the community.
Yeah.
And it's not only about funding, it's about awareness.
It is.
Of the sector.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to bring to people. So, well, Jason, thanks so much for being here.
Thank y'all for having me. This was great.
It was great. Yeah, I can't wait to share your story out. And
thank you for being a member of the Nonprofit Council.
I love it.
We
a lot
love
of
our
stuff.
members.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for watching this episode, and a big shout out to Methodist Healthcare Ministries for their support of the podcast this year. And we will see you on the next episode.